Hello and welcome to this special episode of Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Today is 14th of August and the nation is celebrating the 77th Independence Day with national zeal and fervor. The day dawned with a 31-gun salute at the federal capital and 21-gun salute at the provincial capitals. The main flag hoisting ceremony was held at the National Monument, where Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was also in attendance. Also, there are certain messages regarding this particular momentous occasion when President Asif Ali Zardari says, let me quote him, that the creation of Pakistan through peaceful and democratic means was a unique chapter in the history, and we need to draw inspiration from the words of our Qaid, and if we want to make this great state of Pakistan happy and prosperous. Likewise, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has also said a very important thing. Let me quote him. Over the decades, Pakistan had achieved significant milestones as the resilience of Pakistani people had been tested through natural disasters and has economic and social challenges, yet the spirit of determination and unity has always prevailed, unquote. Likewise, on this particular special day, the Armed Forces of Pakistan, the Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee and the Services Chief also extended felicitations to the nation. And let me quickly bring in our esteemed panel of guests who are joining us both in the studio as well as online to talk about this particular day, the spirit of independence, and what it actually reminds us 77 years before that very momentous occasion when the Muslims of subcontinent got a separate homeland. Over the years, what we have achieved, what remain to be the challenges during that particular journey of 77 years, and what are the prospects when we talk about in terms of prosperity as well as development, and what could be the potential challenges in future, and what could be the strategies in order to overcome those challenges in future. Let me quickly bring in Dr. Abid Abbasi. Is historian, author and a journalist. He's associated with the National University of Modern Languages as assistant professor, and he has the PhD on history of Pakistan. Dr. Abbasi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also on Skype, we are honored to have been joined by Professor Dr. M.Javed Akhtar. He is chairman at the Department of Pakistan Studies at the Bahauddin Zakaria University. Dr. Akhtar, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Abbasi, those factors at that particular time when we talk about that very Pakistan movement, that spirit that existed at that particular time, what were those core factors that actually made the Muslims of subcontinent realize that they needed a separate homeland for themselves?
Thank you very much, Jawad Tamisa. It is really a pleasure to be a part of your show on this very special occasion of the history of Pakistan. You rightly said that before the creation of Pakistan, the Pakistan movement has launched for 40 years, rather more than 40 years. Our forefathers having a very clear vision for creating a separate homeland for the Muslims of South Asia. On that vision, they struggled for 40 years and finally achieved a miracle in the form of the biggest, largest Muslim state on the planet. So for that matter, if we go back into history, in the words of the founding father of the nation, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that Pakistan would not merely a piece of land, but it would be a state where the golden principles of Islam that has been established in the first ever Muslim state of Medina, and that would be a democratic welfare state for the Muslims of South Asia. Or he has very clearly mentioned for a time in so many occasions, so many times, that Pakistan is the ultimate result of the struggle of the Muslim of South Asia for their separate homeland. They would exercise the golden principles of Islam to benefit the Muslims, to benefit the masses of that newly established land. Or if I quote the words of the Stanley Walpert, a very famous biographer of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah has not only altered the geography of the map, he has not created a nation state, but he has established a separate state, the largest state for the Muslims of South Asia. We must keep in consideration that Muslims remain in power for about 1,000 years in South Asia, and after the British imperialist power came into South Asia and they established their rule. After the departure of the anticipated departure of the British, it was quite clear that there would be a modern democratic system linked or inspired by the Westminster democratic system, or in that Westminster democratic system, the majoritarian rule would establish, and Muslims were in minority, and it was not possible for the Muslims of India to carry on the golden principles of Islam as their sort of way of life, as their constitution, as their system of governance in the country. This was one objective. And secondly, as I earlier said, that Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah used to say that Pakistan would be a land where the golden principle Islam would be tested. It means that the rights or the facilities or the sort of system which was provided by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or his pious caliphs, 4 caliphs in Medina, that would be the the crux, and that would be the sort of essence of that newly established state.
A place, a separate homeland for the Muslims where the golden principles of Islam would be tested and practiced. That was the main spirit behind that Pakistan movement. I'll come back to you, and I'll come back to you when I'll talk about the current scenario for the Muslims who are in India at this particular point in time, and the kind of atmosphere of discrimination that is being meted out to them as compared to what was the situation with the Muslims at that particular time. As you already mentioned, that Muslims were in a minority at that particular time also. Let me proceed towards Dr. Akhtar. Dr. Akhtar, now keeping in view the kind of discrimination which is being meted out to the Muslims who are in India, how do you correlate the current situation for the Muslims within India to the situation at that time for the Muslims of subcontinent? What was the spirit behind that very yearning of the Muslims of subcontinent to have a separate homeland?
Thank you very much. You have invited me in this program. I'm really thankful to you. And my respectable colleague also shed some light on the issues which are related to the partition, and as well as those circumstances which have constituted some of the factors by which the Muslims were ready or compelled to have a separate homeland for themselves, whereby they will be able to lead their life according to their own wishes. Whereas now the question is relating to the particularly the living conditions, and as well as the stature, either it is their political stature or either their social stature in the India. You know very well that some of the reports which have been given either by the United States Assembly or either as well as the United Nations agencies about the affairs of the minorities in India. And it has been given some observations that rather than to proclaim that state is secular in stature, as it has been depicted in its constitution, but whatever the practices which have been carried out in India, the Muslims and as well as the other minorities living in different other states of India, they are much more vulnerable. As gradually there is some kind of nationalism which they have been projected under the banner of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And in the recent past...
Your point is well taken. I'll come back to you, Dr. Akhtar, to take your deeper understanding regarding as to what sort of treatment that is being meted out to Muslims right now in India, and correlation of that particular thing with that in the past when Muslims of the subcontinent realized that they should have separate homeland. Dr. Abbasi, now when looking at that vision of the leaders of the Pakistan movement at that particular time, they were quite right in understanding what could be the situation with the Muslims in the future ahead also, because at that particular time, the kind of treatment that was being meted out to Muslims of the subcontinent as a minority. Now, as we see after 77 years of independence, the situation for Muslims in India particularly has worsened. Your take?
Of course, you are very right. And the time has proved that the VN was above the understanding of the common political thinkers of that time, because if I quote the Farooq Abdullah, the former Chief Minister of Kashmir, the Indian occupied Kashmir, and many other secularistic Muslims, or even voices from within the Congress and the Hindu community, they testified the vision of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the founder of Pakistan, that those people who were pro-Congress from some of the Muslim community, they were pro-Congress and they were talking about the Indian nationalism, and they joined Congress and they remain in Congress, so many people. But after years and years, decades, they were compelled to say that the vision of Jinnah was above their thinking, because the time has proved that Indian so-called quote unquote secular state, which the self-proclaimed secular state, the way they treated their minorities, and particularly the Muslims, what they are facing. If we go back into history a few years back, the present Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, he was given the title of Butcher of Gujarat, and he was banned to visit United States of America and many other countries. He was banned because the way the Muslims were slaughtered in Gujarat in the hands with the support of the government of Gujarat, that was one of the worst examples of the atrocities meted by the minorities in a country. And on the other hand, the Indian leadership or Indian intelligentsia, they claim that India is a secular country, and the Muslims and Hindus and the Sikhs and all those, which was the claim of Congress before the partition of India and Pakistan. But the time has proved that the Muslims are not secure there. Their rights have not been given to them. What we see in Kashmir for the last 77 years, the worst atrocities meted by the people in Kashmir, what they are demanding, their right of self-determination, and that right was given to them by the United States, the Security Council of the United States. There are more than 17 resolutions passed by the United States. But despite the fact, on one hand, the Indian leadership is claiming to be the secular, on the other hand, they are not giving this the most secularistic demand. Yes. The right of self-determination. This is the fundamental right of every community to live in a country or in a part of country,
as
that they should live by their own aspirations, their own will, their own
where they can live with dignity.
But if on the one side they have been killed brutally, the women are being disgraced, they are raped, the children are living in a trauma-like situation for 77 years. On the other hand, they claim themselves as secular, and God forbid if Pakistan were not into the fashion, into the existence, the same situation would have been meted by the people of present-day Pakistan. So right. Pakistan is a fruit of sort of that effort, and it's a gift of God.
That effort, also the sacrifices. Let me yes. take this point to Dr. Akhtar. Dr. Akhtar, when we talk about the efforts made by the Muslims of subcontinent at that particular time for the realization of getting a separate homeland where they could live with dignity, what were those sacrifices or the efforts put in by the Muslims at that particular time?
Thank you very much. I would like to say some of the past reflections, which may give some of the glimpses whereby we will be able to formulate the opinion. One of such kind of things, as you have mentioned in your discussion about the states, likely to be in 1929, a Battle Committee was constituted to basically observe the status of the different states in India, whereby it was an effort on the part of the British Raj that they want to give a new constitutional scheme for the subcontinent. And under that scheme, they have realized that how the status of minorities will also be judged. And these are the two basically fundamental things. Not only they want to give the proper status to the states within the subcontinent, either they want to have their paramountcy or not, but as well as parallel to it, the most important thing which they have enshrined in that formula when the 1935 Act was given to India that the minorities will be protected under the special privilege which was given and awarded to the governors, and whereby the Congress have some kind of objection over it. Why the Congress have objection over it, and we have seen later on when in 1937 elections when they formed the ministries, and what were their acts in the different provinces where they have formed the ministries, whereby particularly the Muslims were not happy with their acts. And we know very well the Wada scheme which they have executed. It particularly eulogized their own symbolic destination, whereby the Muslims felt at that moment that they are being negated and their cultural perspective is always being ignored by the Congress ministries. And later on now, when we are going to talk about the states, and particularly this is the positive angle, which I think that have been given by the British Raj in that particular committee, which was little debated in House of Commons, and whereby in House of Commons, the Secretary of State for India given his version that paramountcy is always linked to the crown, and crown is not equal to the state's representatives. Either they are the prince, or either they are the nizam, or either what they are, the title they have. But now, this is the good thing that the states in the partition formula, states will have to opt one in terms of their geographical proximity and as well as the density of the population in terms of their communal affiliations. So that's why these were the two major considerations by which the states were given some kinds of option. Either they have to opt in India or either they have to opt Pakistan. But Kashmir, as it is geographical proximity and as well as cultural proximity, and as well as some kinds of the portion of the Muslim population in Kashmir Valley. And the others adjacent areas, Ladakh and as well as the Jammu. But anyhow, in Kashmir Valley, Muslims constituted more than 85%. But by all of the methodologies which were being chalked out at the time of 1947, it should be the part of Pakistan. But anyhow, it was some kind of instrument of accession, and later on, whatever it is, it was under the suppression of Indian forces by which it has occupied the Kashmir. And now we have seen the situation in India while they are the claimant that they are carrying forward some kinds of traditions which the British established in India. But I think so. The legacy, the past legacy is totally different one. In past legacy, they have awarded the utilitarian concepts by which they think that all the people without any kind of discrimination, either it is based on caste, either on creed, they are equal. And so that's why I think so the vulnerability which is now being visualized in Kashmir, it is unacceptable. And particularly when they have altered their constitutional scheme, after which they have given and granted some kinds of privileges to the other Indians, that they can go into the Kashmir, they can buy and they can have their own particularly residence over there, and some kinds of scholarships in terms of education and as well as the jobs. So altered the position.
I receive your point very well. When we talk about your quick take regarding as to when we look at the 77 years of journey of an independent Pakistan, a separate homeland for Muslims here, over the last 77 years, as per your understanding, what has been the most significant achievements during this journey of 77 years?
Yeah, thank you. Whereas in relation to Pakistan, I think so, Pakistan has expanded its infrastructure. Pakistan tried in always whereby it developed a pluralistic approach, whereby to accommodate some kind of the considerations of all of the regionalities and the communities residing in Pakistan. Pakistan's constitution is very clear in that way through Article 25, which is clearly stating that there is no discrimination, either whatever that, either sex, creed, caste, religion, so ever it is. But anyhow, some of the things likely to be, we are struggling. And Pakistan's government always tried to establish likely to be the educational reforms. As we have seen that either there is an example of one of the province or the other of the provinces, but particularly they try to imitate some kind of the glimpses. As we have seen in Punjab, that there is some kinds of good universities have been established to give an access to ordinary people to approach the good education. And similar way, the health sector also. There are a lot of reforms which have been done, and as well as we have seen today that the doorstep educational and as well as the health facilities are being provided to the ordinary people. And similar way, same kinds of things are being offered.
Dr. Chairman at the Department of Pakistan Studies at Bahauddin Zakaria University, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Abbasi, when we talk about the 77 years of journey of Pakistan, how Pakistan has fared and would have been the major significant achievements as per your understanding?
If I, sort of count the achievements Pakistan made during the 70s, there's a long list. If we see at the creation of Pakistan, the country was totally dependent. The existential threats were there. Those were not threat perceptions, but the realities, because India or the leadership of India at that time was very much clear to, God forbid, undo Pakistan, the creation of Pakistan. So the first, the most important sort of task at that time was to, intact the independence of the country. But we were not in position, the ammunition and the, infrastructure, or in terms of military hardwares or the assets which were transferred to Pakistan. We all know that was very meager, and some sort of, injustices were made to give those assets to Pakistan. So the leadership of the newly established country started from zero. The offices were established in the tents, or the, even the stationery was not there, even the, sort of financial resources were not there. The state of Bahawalpur supported Pakistan for the salaries of the government functionaries. Similarly, there were so many other donors. We started
There was a
zero.
refugee crisis also at that time.
So many crises.
Influx of so many people
yes, the migrants,
leaving their
about
ancestral lands coming here.
6.6 million people from Indian territories, they came overnightly to Pakistan, and to get them settled in the newly established state, there were so many issues. We have actually the pioneer, we have started from zero, the capital of the newly established country at Karachi. But starting from that, sort of circumstances, that miserable circumstances, now we are an atomic power. We have established over, sort of the social contract in terms of Constitution 1973, because that is very fundamental document. For me, the constitutional development, particularly the establishment of the Constitution of 1973, is one of the major few successes of this country, because without having, sort of agreement with the state, the people of Pakistan and the state, there would be no clear vision, no clear destination to head. So Pakistan, the leadership of Pakistan, after the dismemberment, the sad incident of dismemberment of East Pakistan, by the way, again, there was Indian involvement in the global conspiracy against Pakistan. They started from that zero. We have established the whole elected leadership of the country, unanimously passed a constitution, that is the Constitution of 1973. Then we see our achievements. We were totally dependent on Western countries for our military hardware. Now Pakistan is self-sufficient. We have established our heavy mechanical complex, where we are not only making the self-generated military hardware, but we are exporting the aircrafts to other countries of the world. Similarly, we have constructed our modern state institutions. Our ministries were made. We have established Steel Mill Karachi. Though that Steel Mill Karachi is not functioning now, and we, unfortunately, these are one of our failures, that we could not protect our national assets. But we have established that. Similarly, we have a huge number of motorways in the country that is very essential as infrastructure for the development of a country. Similarly, we have achieved in so many other fields. We have 2, 3 Nobel laureates, Dr. Abdul Salam, who has achieved Nobel Prize in physics. Similarly, Malala Yousafzai, she has the country which is in trouble. Yes, we have a lot of problems. economic crises are there, or financial matters are very worse. There are so many derailment of democracy in the country. We had martial laws in the country. But despite all those, sort of problems in the country, still Pakistani nation has developed so much, and so because we should keep in our consideration that 77 years is not a big sort of era for a nation to develop. If we go through and discuss the development of the modern states, if we talk about the United States of America, if we talk about the United Kingdom, if we talk about other well-established democracies of the world, they have taken hundreds and hundreds of years to develop. So 77 years is not a big. The problems which we are facing today, inshallah, those problems won't be there in future. But the problems which we had in past, those are not today. Yes, we have created some new problems as well, but all those problems are there, they are existent, but still the nation is a very resilient nation. We have faced so many floods. We have faced one of the major earthquakes in the history of the world that the nation has been.
There have been natural catastrophes.
So many
challenges.
Recently in 2022.
And today's statement by Prime Minister talks of that resilience the Pakistani nation has exhibited over the last many years. Now, when we specifically talk about the relationship with the eastern neighbor, there's been a threat right since the inception of Pakistan. How Pakistan has dealt with this particular threat over the years?
It's very unfortunate because the visionary leadership, unfortunately, leadership is actually the key to the success for a nation. Leadership is very important role to play for the development of a nation. As a teacher teaches the students in the class, a leader teaches the whole nation, as a whole. But unfortunately, after the demise of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, so just 1 year after the creation of Pakistan, we could not have a vibrant leadership to lead the country out of those crises and to make them. Then we have another leader, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who is actually the main orchestrator behind the creation of the Constitution. I used to focus on Constitution time and again because without having rules of games, no country, no nation can develop positively. So after the creation of the Constitution 1973, unfortunately that leader was also hanged. So leadership crisis is a very one of the fundamental crises.
So
what you have said about the Indian threat from our eastern border, that is very unfortunate in the history of the human beings in the planet, because both the countries having the largest sort of amount of poverty living here, about if I could say 1 billion people, either they are on the poverty line or below the poverty line or just above the poverty line. Both the countries, the leadership should realize that without solving these issues, these territorial issues or these border issues or threat from Indian, because we should keep in our mind that India is 10 times bigger than Pakistan. That is one of the major military powers in the world. So despite having that magnitude of the Indian strength, military strength, still Pakistan has succeeded to defend its border from India, having 4 wars with India. Despite all those pressures, all those sort of the problems of very high magnitude, Pakistan is surviving, Pakistan is developing. Despite the people do talk about the failures. Yes, failures are there. We are facing so many crises, economic crisis, poverty, below the poverty line, strength of the country. Similarly, education, about 25 million children are out of the schools. So many problems are there. But all those problems in 77 years, this resilient nation, just in 2022, we had the flood in the Sindh and Balochistan. About 30 million people were affected. According to the world analysis, this nation has shown tremendous resilience to face that. If that the catastrophe would have been in any other countries of the world, the situation would be much worse than the Pakistanis. Despite all those failures, all those problems, still the nation is having hope. They have a morale, they have resilience, and inshallah in the coming future, Pakistan would be leading towards positivity.
Right now, I've got another participant on joining us on Skype, Professor Dr. Riaz. Ahmad is Tamgh-i-Imtiaz Aizaz-i-Fazeelat, is former director at the National Institute of Historical and Cultural Research, is author of more than 50 books, 30 on Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Dr. Ahmad, thank you very much for your time for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. When we talk about that persona, that character, the personality of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, being the author of more than 30 books on Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, how bigger an impetus that personality, that character, the traits associated with that leadership of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah gave to Pakistan movement?
PP world. They have taken me on the PP world. As far as the Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he is rightly mentioned as the founder of Pakistan. The founder of Pakistan, in the sense that he has taken the trouble, pain to engage the opponents, the British colonial masters, the Congress leaders, the Sikh leaders, and others, and engage with them to have a dialogue, discussion, and come to some conclusion. Mountbatten arrived in India in March 1947. From 23rd March to 3rd June, he had an extensive dialogue with the Indian leaders. Initially, he came to keep the India united, as he had already secretly promised with the Congress leaders. But Quaid's persistence and argumentative of Quaid convinced him to go for Pakistan by 21st April 1947. This is evident through the transfer power volumes which were published by the British government during 70s and 80s. Then Quaid pleaded that the 6 Muslim majority provinces should not be divided. They should be given full. He gave argument in the 30 April speech. He advanced his argument, the geographical, historical, and cultural, and many other things. But they were not heard. But ultimately, they agreed to give Pakistan as a divided Pakistan, Punjab divided, Bengal divided, and Assam. So this Pakistan, even then, in 3rd June, he agreed. Then the other thing was the partition issue, how they are to be tackled. The Quaid-e-Azam leadership tackled successfully, and he forced the Mountbatten to arrange Pakistan Constitutional Assembly meeting before 15 August 1947. That is why on 10th August 1947, the Pakistan Constitutional Assembly meeting was held, in which he was elected as the first president of the Constitutional Assembly on 11th August, and his famous speech is very important, in which he spoke on equal rights of the Muslims, non-Muslims as the equal citizens of Pakistan. On 14th, then he was...
Ahmad, former director at the National Institute of Historical and Cultural Research, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on this special episode of Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. In the studio, we are honored to have been joined by another participant, Professor Dr. Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq, his Director General of the Islamic Research Institute. Dr. Zia-ul-Haq, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Now, right at the inception of Pakistan back in 1947, this momentous day of 14th of August reminds us about those efforts during the Pakistan movement and even those sacrifices which were rendered by the people who wanted a separate homeland for the Muslim subcontinent. From those challenges right at the inceptions up till now, in the last 77 years, what Pakistan was faced with at that particular moment on 14th of August 1947, and how it has fared so far up till now during these 77 years.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to congratulate you and congratulate my beloved Pakistanis on the 77th Jashan Azadi of Pakistan. You have rightly pointed out the challenges that Pakistan is facing from the creation of Pakistan. One thing that is very clear, and that is not still changed. It was the commitment of the Pakistanis to the main objective of the creation of Pakistan. Why we have created Pakistan. this objective was very clear for the workers and the leaders of the Pakistan movement, that why we are getting a Pakistan as a homeland. There were several types of prototype that what type of Pakistan will be. There were many countries in that particular period. These countries were getting liberation, and there was no debate in these societies what type of these countries will be. Egypt was getting liberation, Iraq was getting liberation, other countries were getting liberation, and they had clear cut that we will return to the same society that we were before. But at the time of the creation of Pakistan, it was clear that the Pakistan will not be returning back to the era of Mughal Empire. It will be a new state, a democratic, positive, but Islamic state. This is a unique experience of the world. A constitutional state, a nation state, which is declaring that Quran and Sunnah is the supreme law of Pakistan. And I tell you that this is the most successful achievement of the Pakistan, that we have a modern, positive, nation state constitution based on the transcultural values and principles of Islam. So this is, I think this is the most important thing, is that even today, if we are committed with the objectives of the creation of Pakistan, the objectives of the creation of Pakistan are clearly laid down on the objective resolution. Unfortunately, I have seen several people, they are ridiculing Pakistan studies and ridiculing objective resolution. We have to learn that no nation, no country can sustain if it is not committed with the creation of its objective. So the creation of Pakistan as a modern, democratic, constitutional, but Islamic state is a fundamental achievement of Pakistani
Professor
state.
Dr. Mohammad Zia-ul-Haq, thank you very much for being with us on this special episode. Unfortunately, we are short of time. You are Director General of the Islamic Research Institute. We really appreciate you joining at this particular special episode. Also in the studio, we were joined by Dr. Abid Abbasi. He is historian, author and journalist, assistant professor at the National University of Modern Languages. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Abbasi, also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of this special episode of Views on News. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.